in these confrontations, Joe Mann consistently had to do more push-ups, more running, etc., etc. So you can imagine that Joe Mann at one particular time got fed up with it, and he started to loudmouth at the sergeants. You know, you're just a private, right? What happens if you loudmouth a sergeant? You get into trouble, right? And Joe Mann got in a whole lot of trouble, and a whole lot of trouble appeared to be that he was not only transferred from the company or to another battalion, but he was transferred to another regiment, the 502. So something really bad happened between those two, and the family never had been able to figure out why. But before he left the 506, he told his very good friend in G Company 506, Private Pee Wee Martin, that's a veteran who's still living. He will be making a commemorative jump next year on D-Day, on the commemoration, the 75th commemoration. Tell a little bit about Pee Wee Martin, because he was a remarkable guy. I've met him a couple of times. A couple of years ago, he was 90. He ran up Korea Mountain. Talk about tough guys. At the 70th anniversary, he also did a commemorative jump. He did a tandem jump. Right? He was strapped in. He hated that. He wanted to do his own jump, but they wouldn't let him because he wasn't pressure qualified anymore. And he said, also for your safety, you might jump and be killed. He said, I might have been killed in 1944. Now I'm 90. Who the hell cares? That kind of guy. He's really remarkable. And actually, next year he's gonna jump solo. Wow. He re-qualified. Take your hat off for this guy. Either way, Joe Mann told Pee Wee Martin, and we know this from Pee Wee Martin personally, that Joe Mann said to him, I will prove that I am a good soldier. Do mind me, keep an eye on me. You will all get to know me. Last jump, practice jump before the Normandy D-Day landings. Joe Mann again came down very hard on his shoulder, broke his collarbone again. So Joe Mann never was in a D-Day jump, and he hated that because he wasn't able to prove himself. Right? So he just sat there in a hospital, and later at the barracks, and seeing all those people from the 502 coming back. All those people, well, very few, but I'll tell you a little bit about it when we have the Cole Monument. Because he was in 3rd Battalion 502, that was Cole's lot. And very few, I can already tell you that very few of 3rd Battalion 502 came back from Normandy. Very few. And Joe Mann, basically, he hated himself for it. You know, he should have been there. He should have been there with his mates. He should have been there to watch their backs and to be fighting with them. So when the 502 was being rebuilt in England and started to prepare for what was to become Market Garden, Joe Mann walked up to his company commander, Captain Jones, and he said, I want to be a lead scout. Now, for those of you all that have been in the army, you will be familiar with that leading a lead scout is one of the most dangerous jobs you can do. You're always up in front of the rest of the troops for about 200 to 300, 400 yards, depending on whether you're the first or the second scout. You know, it's a dangerous job, and he volunteered for it. Why? He wanted to prove himself. He desperately wanted to prove himself. So Market Garden arrives, and in the fields about 2 miles in that direction behind those woods, the Americans land on the drop landing zone, Sons Heath. We'll be skirting that area. We won't be going there today. But just to show you a little bit on this map, we are here at the canal. This is the woods in the back, and this is the drop landing zone. It's about 1 or 2 miles from here. Now the H Company 502, reinforced with some engineers and extra machine guns from battalion, had a special assignment in Market Garden. Because during Market Garden, the 101st was given 12 objectives, 12 bridges to capture in the area. And And there was one bridge in Son. We've been there yesterday, right? And that bridge was blown up by the Germans. 2 auxiliary bridges had already been blown days before by the Germans as a precaution. And General Taylor, when looking at the map prior to Operation Market Garden, saw that there was just one main road bridge at Son. He thought that was a little bit too dangerous. He wanted to have an insurance policy, and he found that insurance policy here at the town of Best, which is just behind the trees over there. And there are 2 bridges here. One is the road bridge we just passed over, and a little bit further to the west is a railroad bridge. Both very serviceable to get large amounts of vehicles and tanks across. So General Taylor said to the 502, capture those 2 bridges as well. Now he has 14 bridges. The 502, Colonel Michaelis, said to 3rd Battalion, send 1 platoon. Colonel Robert Cole said, you know, 1 platoon, just 40 guys for 2 bridges, out in the middle of nowhere, the rest is going in another direction. That's a little bit too few. So he asked permission to send a reinforced company. Normally company about 140, 150 guys in World War II, parachute infantry, and they bumped it up to about 200, 220 men. And it was their mission to go from the drop and landing zone towards this area, capture both bridges, and hold until relieved. When they came off those drop and landing zone, there were some Germans, and they started to move in this direction. There were some Germans here at the town of Best. They were holding the town of Best. That was just an anti-aircraft unit and some auxiliary units there. Nothing much at that point in time. And the story that Jones gave after the war is that they were a little bit disoriented in the woods, and they veered off to the right and started to go directly at the Germans. That's a little bit of a crazy story, because it's very hard. You can lose your way in woods, but skirting these woods is very hard to lose your way, even if you're not very good at navigating. Right? So we nowadays, as local historians, think that he was engaged already by these Germans with long distance fire, and trying to get to the bridges, he would have had the Germans in his flank and in his rear. That would pose a threat. So he probably went there to neutralize those Germans and then try to head for the bridges. That's a more logical explanation. But he never gave that explanation officially after being debriefed, because that would get him into trouble. Right? That weren't his orders. Either way, Jones's company gets into a firefight near Best, and we'll be crossing that crossroads when we go to the next place. I'll point it out to you from the bridge, and I'll also point out to you how long a distance it is to this bridge. But Jones got hung up there, and the German way of dealing with paratroopers in World War II, the German doctrine of dealing with paratroopers in World War II was quite simple. Throw everything into the fray, even piecemeal, to keep the paratroopers off guard, because as soon as they concentrate or are on their objective, they get strong and you can't dislodge them. So you want to keep the pressure off on them. You want to keep the groups apart, you know, and isolate them, and then you can neutralize them. So the Germans just throw anything at you that they can find. So as the fight is going on that afternoon, more and more Germans get into this area. One of the groups that's coming into this area is a column of German trucks, about 20 German trucks, with a motorcyclist about 50 yards in front of them. Those Jones organizes that they will ambush those trucks, and agreements between the platoons are made to wait until the trucks are really in front of them, and then hit them from the side to make sure that all these trucks and everybody that's in that is going to be killed. But one of the paratroopers is a little bit nervous or trigger happy, and he already starts shooting at the motorcyclist. He hits them, kills him, so it's a good shot. But it also causes that these trucks stop suddenly about 200 yards before they reach the position of Jones's man. Germans start getting off the trucks, and they get a scare of their lives, because about 200 to 300 Germans get off, and there are already a couple of hundred Germans engaged here. So Jones is getting into more and more trouble because these Germans are trying to outflank him. Jones has to pull back in broad daylight. One of the most dangerous maneuvers you can do. Retreating in broad daylight over open country that was by that time pretty much void of cover, just through the fields. So by the time that Jones gets to these woods a little bit further up this road, he already lost about 60 men. You know, just in one engagement, 60 men are gone, either dead, wounded, or captured by the Germans. That's what retreating in broad daylight is about. You don't want to do it, but he had to. In the meantime, he also dispatches Lieutenant Wisbowski and his platoon, and this is Lieutenant Wisbowski, to go through the woods and come into this area and capture these bridges. And he says to Wisbowski, you go to capture these bridges, I'll hold back the Germans, and if we neutralize them, we go to the bridges and end up in Europe. And Wisbowski sets off with about 60 people, but by the time they get here to the canal, it's already 10 o'clock at night, it's raining, they only have about 20 to 30 people left. The rest got lost in those woods. So with this small group, Wisbowski and his man tried to go for the bridges. Joe Mann and Wisbowski head forward, the group remains a little bit back, and probably there's a German sentry walking his round, and all of a sudden the German sentry stands still almost in front of Wisbowski and Joe Mann. Wisbowski and Joe Mann have to keep that, literally have to keep that breath before the German hears something. But the other paratroopers are starting to talk to each other. Where's Wisbowski? Where's Joe Mann? No. And the Germans pick up on that noise and they start firing. Right? So the Americans fire back, and in that instant Wisbowski jumps up and he knocks down the German sentry and makes his escape together with Joe Mann. In that firefight, which is quite confusing, there's no officer, a couple of those paratroopers head down into the woods. So by the time that firefight is over, Wisbowski has just a little under 20 men left, and they take refuge in some shell holes in this area that was caused by earlier bombing attacks on this bridge. The next day, Joe Mann is going what he called tank hunting, together with his good friend James Hoyle, who was also a scout in the platoon of Wisbowski. They venture out about 200 to 300 yards and start taking on German trucks, German anti-aircraft gun, and also hit an ammunition dump. During that fight, Joe Mann is being shot in both his shoulders, so he's wounded. He can't fight anymore. Hoyle takes him back to the foxholes, to the shell holes that they are in, and Joe Mann is being bandaged. He has 2 metallas. While he's being pulled back by Hoyle, the Germans again shoot him. And Joe Mann is also, but at that time it's really weird, but he's hit in both his underarms. So it's both his shoulders and his underarms are hit by bullets. So he's out of a fight entirely. During the morning of the 18th, or the early afternoon of the 18th, as a precaution, the Germans already blow the bridge. But Wisbowski decides that they will be staying because Jones has said that he will link up with them. Jones at that time thinks Wisbowski is gone, so he doesn't link up anymore. So those 20, just under 20 men remain here. And in the morning of the 19th of September, in the early morning fog, the Germans are done with this situation and they start an attack on the positions. And as the Americans appearing through the early morning fog, all of a sudden these Germans appear right in front of their positions and start throwing hand grenades and firing their machine guns, and a very brutal close combat firefight breaks out between those groups. Germans keep throwing hand grenades, Americans try to throw hand grenades back. one of those hand grenades explodes on the front of one of the shell holes, and the machine gunner, one of the machine gunners, Wojciechowski, is blinded. But he just tries to find other hand grenades and starts throwing them back. One of these hand grenades finds its way into the shell hole in which both Wojciechowski, Joe Mann, and a couple of other guys are. About 8 guys. Those are the only 8 guys left that can fight. And everybody's heavily engaged, and Joe Mann sees that hand grenade, and he can't do anything. His both hands are tied up because of his wounds. And he just shouts, "That one is mine," and he throws his back on the hand grenade explodes, and Joe Mann dies. About 10 minutes later, the last rounds are spent, and it's only then that Wojciechowski decides that all the men but a few are wounded. I've no ammunition left, literally no ammunition left, no hand grenades left. Let's surrender. That's a bad thing. Because in any war, if you start firing all your ammunition and then say to the enemy, "Okay, I surrender now," what do you think the enemy does? They kill you. Right? But luckily for Wojciechowski, they had captured some German medics, and those German medics have helped the Americans treating all the wounded. And as the Germans are starting to prepare to kill those American paratroopers that are still left, one of the medics comes up to an officer and explains in German, no, they are very kind people. They left us alone, we helped them, take them prisoner. And it's because of one German medic that these guys survived. They're taken back to a German field hospital and a prisoner collection point. And 2 of those 8 guys even managed to get a little bit away from the group and hide from the Germans. And they remain hiding until that afternoon when an attack by the Americans comes in. And then those 2 guys, I can't remember the name, I think James Hoyle was one of them, just get out of his hiding, finds an M1 Garand, reloads it, and starts fighting again. Like nothing ever happened. We know that both those guys survived the war. Wojciechowski and his man, the 6 left, because of the heavy counterattack, there is a little bit of a confusion in the German field hospital. The Americans, together with a couple of other Americans that were captured, take their chance, take some German guns that were lying around, take those guns and capture the field hospital. But they decide to leave the Germans alone and just head back with the German weapons and fight back their way towards their friendly lines. So Wojciechowski and his men came back into friendly lines in the afternoon of the 19th of September. Well, everybody thought they were dead. They had a debriefing in Nijmegen, close to before they went onto the island, and they had said to each other, we failed massively, so we won't talk about what happened during the debriefing. We keep our mouth shut. But keeping your mouth shut being debriefed, that's very difficult. So during the debriefing, Wojciechowski said, what we're going to do, we're going to tell Joe's story, because that is the story that has to be told. And based on that decision by Wojciechowski, and he told his story to SLA Marshall, and he later became the official American historian for the American Army. The story of Joe Mann became known, and he was recommended for a Medal of Honor, which he posthumously was awarded. So that's the story about Joe Mann.